iPhone 4, it is official. Steve Jobs making the announcement less than 1 hour ago. So what are the prospects for Apple's latest innovation, and how does it stack up against the competition? We're joined by tech analyst David Garrity, a principal at the research firm GVA Research. David, for years now, has been a sounding board for us here at Bloomberg News on the tech front. Back in April, he said he expected to see a new iPhone unveiled in June, and he also said he expects a new version of iPod in September. David, welcome to you. Great to see you.
Thank you, Laura.
Okay, so iPhone 4, it's been announced, but is it a bit, and I asked our markets reporter Don this a little while ago, anticlimactic given that this thing was found on the bar stool, correct?
Certainly. I mean, given the whole controversy of having the prototype lost in a bar in Cupertino back in March and having Gizmodo, the tech blog, come in and pretty much dissect the phone and make it available for everybody, there's a big question as to what the company could actually do between March and April when the analysis was done and now.
Well, Steve Jobs, right, and his presence at the World Developers Conference alone, isn't that significant?
It certainly is, but the fact of the matter is that Jobs has been there for every year giving the keynote address, and the trick has always been for the audience and for investors is, okay, what rabbit is Steve going to pull out of his hat at the end of the speech in terms of what it is that he's going to say? And from that standpoint, having already gotten to see the product, there really wasn't anything that Steve came up with that was all that surprising, and hence, you know, obviously buy the rumor, sell the news, we see the stock down today.
All right, tethering and multitasking capabilities, 100 plus new functions on this iPhone. Are you impressed with the nuts and bolts of it?
Certainly. I mean, to the extent that you now will have the ability with Apple Operating System 4 to do multitasking, this is a significant productivity advance. And it's also important to consider the fact that those people who are out there that own the iPhone 2G and 3G, they can't upgrade to the fourth version, the OS 4 software. So obviously this is a built-in incentive for those owners, 57% of the installed base, to go out there in the US
and
upgrade.
A lot of people were looking for some announcement with AT&T, which is the carrier, right? And that's been a point of criticism because of the drop call problem. And there had been some talk that Verizon might be a carrier, but Verizon, from my understanding, has some problems with Apple and Apple's terms as well. So how is this one going to shake out?
I think that between now and the end of the year, we are going to have a situation where the exclusivity that's existed between Apple and AT&T Wireless, where AT&T has been the exclusive distributor since the June 2007 launch of the iPhone, that will come to an end. And the reason for it isn't so much because of anything that's going on with respect to AT&T. What's really going on here is more what's going on between Apple and Google, and the fact that Android-powered smartphone handsets, whether they're from HTC or from Motorola, essentially are the flagship phones, smartphones, for all the other wireless carriers in the US, AT&T Wireless accepted, where it is obviously the iPhone.
You mentioned that Android phone. It's getting some awesome reviews, correct? So how is Steve Jobs doing promoting his iPhone? I mean, this is really a smartphone war shaking out, isn't it? Smartphone war.
It is very much. And the thing that's important to consider here is the fact that you've got smartphone volumes are obviously rising more rapidly than standard PC volumes. And you're now in a situation where really the smartphone is going to become the PC form factor, not only of the present, but more importantly, the future. And what you have here with respect to between Apple and Google is to say who's going to have the largest installed base of operating system software. And from that standpoint, Apple's done a very good job, but their price points are high. And if you look at where the price points are for Google, obviously Google is aimed more at the broader market. Google wins from the standpoint that they really don't care whether it's an Apple phone or anybody else's phone, as long as you've got more people spending more time on the internet through a wider range of devices, which people will, because smartphones will succeed.
Perhaps you just hit the nail on the head as to why Apple shares are lower today?
Well, I mean, I think that there is a traditional thing of, buy the rumor and sell the news, and there really wasn't anything all that significant. And there probably wasn't enough there to really say that specifically because Apple hasn't moved off the exclusive relationship with AT&T Wireless, that Apple yet is not really taking on Android significantly.
Now, have you used, I imagine you must have used both the Android as well as the iPhone. Which do you prefer?
Actually, I'm a little bit of sort of a tried and true user, and I'm staying with a Palm product for the time being. I think WebOS has been a very interesting product. I'm very interested to see what HP is going to do with Palm when that transaction closes, but I don't think we're going to see much from HP in terms of the smartphone or smart device market until we get out to 2011.
One more quick question. Outside of the competitive nature of the smartphone industry right now, how big of a liability does Steve Jobs and his health continue to be for Apple? What's really going to be the biggest risk factor for Apple here now in the future?
I don't think that Steve really and his health specifically are a liability. I mean, that issue I think was dealt with in the past, and certainly Steve has been a tremendous asset to Apple. The bigger issue I think with respect to Apple, given their pricing strategy, is whether we're going to have a global economy that's sufficiently strong where people are going to be taking these products up, given their premium pricing.
David Garrity, always a pleasure.